Once upon a time, King Amadi of the Umweri kingdom had 7 wives and 12 daughters, 2 from each of his wives except Umma, who had never conceived. The search for a son and heir to continue his legacy frustrated King Amadi. Without a son, my lineage would disappear forever, he worried in his thoughts. Ah! He cried out. What is it, father? One of his daughters asked. Will you get out of my face? He barked. Startled, she left. Become a boy. That is what it is. Nonsense. Umma spent her nights and days in tears, praying to the gods to show her mercy. The king couldn't even stand the sight of her and called her the second man in his household. The other wives enjoyed taunting Umma, especially Asaba. One day, you will finally tell us what you did with your womb, because this thing is not normal again. No? While Ada believed Umma was a witch and the reason none of them gave birth to a boy. The best thing is for the king to send her away so that her curse will stop affecting us, Ada said one night as the wives prepared dinner. Umma overheard her and drenched her pillow with tears, praying for a miracle. Every spiritualist in Umweri failed to provide a solution to King Amadi. He spread his search to other kingdoms, ready to reward handsomely any powerful spiritualist who could give him a son. Then he heard of Ngbeke, a powerful native doctor, renowned for her ability to give life and to take life. King Amadi invited Ngbeke to his palace and she came. When Ngbeke arrived at the palace, King Amadi narrated his ordeal to her and told her the need to avail the situation as fast as possible. I understand your plight, my king. Your problem is a simple one. I'll come back tomorrow to settle everything, but only one of your wives will bear you a son, Ngbeke said. One son is more than enough, King Amadi replied. That night the king couldn't sleep. He couldn't wait for dawn to arrive and for Ngbeke to bring the solution. When Ngbeke arrived, he was excited. King Amadi's wives were summoned before Ngbeke and she handed each of them a strange brown seed and told them to eat the seed the following day with the rule that they must not eat or drink any other thing, including water. She also stated that only one of them would be able to bear a son. They all agreed and secretly prayed to bear the son because the wife who bears the son becomes the queen. Out of the fear of being tempted to eat, King Amadi's 6 fruitful wives refused to cook the king's meals the following day and asked Umma to do it since she was clearly unable to conceive. Umma felt embarrassed when the king agreed that she should do all the cooking. She did hope for a miracle, but she doubted that she would be the lucky one since she couldn't even give birth to a female child. As she prepared the meals, she tied her mouth and nose with a scarf so that she would not be tempted by the aroma or an urge to taste the meal. Towards sunset, Asaba felt very hungry. She couldn't help it any longer. So she snuck into the kitchen and ate the delicious yam porridge Umma prepared to her fill. After 3 weeks, all of King Amadi's wives became pregnant, including Umma, and King Amadi began to count days with joyous expectation. A boy, one of them is carrying a boy, he mused. As the time for delivery grew near, some wives envied Asaba, who had the most protruded stomach, and concluded that she was pregnant with a boy, which was why her stomach looked different. This made Asaba very proud, and she went around claiming she was well versed on how to be a queen. All of the king's wives were due on the same night and time. It was a raucous atmosphere in the palace as screams echoed from different chambers as the women pushed. King Amadi was restless, strolling around the palace as he waited to hear the cry of a boy. The labor lingered for many hours. The king was asked to retire for the night and wait till morning. He hated it, but he obliged. It was almost daybreak when the women finally gave birth and the son was born. All the wives fell asleep immediately, but Ada died after she gave birth. It was sad as they mourned Ada's demise, but Asaba had given birth to a son, So there were mixed reactions and emotions in the palace. Every other wife gave birth to a girl except Mma, who delivered a tuber of yam. King Amadi was so happy. It was a dream come true for him. The other wives were sad and jealous, except for Umma, who cried and cried, saying that the baby boy was hers, and accused Asaba of swapping her son with her dried tuber of yam. Everyone mocked Umma and asked how she could suddenly conceive but never gave birth since. The other wives laughed at her. When the news got to King Amadi, he became furious towards Umma's imprudence and vowed to punish her for that. To accomplish that without appearing to be wicked, King Amadi decided to use Nengo's trial method on all his wives after Ada's burial. Nengo was the biggest river in Umuneri, known for its purity and justice. Anyone who commits a crime and touches his or her foot on the river would be drowned and die. Everyone agreed to the king's decision, including Asaba. King Amadi took all of his wives to the rivers and the Nengo's trial began. The first to dip her foot into the river was Ugo, and nothing happened to her. Uche, Ife, and Eno had their turns and nothing happened. When it came to Asaba's turn, she appeared reluctant but dipped her foot as she thought to herself, all these silly beliefs safe. She was still caught in her thoughts when the river forcefully drew her in and she drowned. Everyone was in shock and King Amadi apologized to Umma for treating her wrongly. The other wives bowed down and said, "Salutations, our queen." When they got back to the palace, a huge celebration was held to celebrate Umma and her son. The king and Umma spent the night watching the stars as they contemplated on the most suitable name for the prince.